My name is Christina, and the comic I chose for this project is called V for Vendetta by Alan Moore and David Lloyd. Just to give you a little bit of background info, it was not always called V for Vendetta. In fact, it went through several titles before becoming the final product. What started as a strip called The Doll, which was rejected by DC Thompson in 1975, developed into a Robin Hood type Orwell inspired heroic anarchist who wore a Guy Fawkes mask. Vendetta was thrown out into the blue by an editor, and Lloyd multiplied on that idea, but in a way so that it emphasized on what V was actually, instead of just the word vendetta. Political happenings in the early 1980s in England also had quite a bit of influence on Moore's work in the storyline, like the setting, political figures who might have or do have control. A quick summary of V for Vendetta: it is the story of young Evie Hammond, who is one of the main characters that it focuses on, and how she lost every person she ever cared about due to the actions of the Norse Fire Party and its criminal ways. She then met V, the radical and heroic anarchist, who aided her in understanding him, and eventually she became his successor. So we're going to expand on that as I go through pages. Okay, so one of the main characters, as I mentioned, is V, or excuse me, Evie. That's what I meant to say. Evie here, she's one of the main characters, and we're introduced to her on the very first page and within the second page. We also meet V here, who is the second main character. So Evie propositions a lawman who happens to be a fingerman, which is part of the secret police at the time, and him and his friends they're planning on doing her harm, so V comes in the picture right around here and basically pulls her out of trouble. In saving Evie, this essentially begins Evie's journey as the hero and V as the aide, who he is also, though, the anti-hero in this story. So V takes Evie back to his shadow gallery, which is full of contraband items, and that will play a part in a little bit. He also leaves and he pays a visit to the train which holds Prothero, takes him prisoner. So he has Prothero prisoner, and here throughout the few panels we have going, this is the start of Evie telling V her life story. So as she tells him her life story, this begins part of her journey, showing how she lived a normal, ordinary human life in a regular setting, and then all this drama happened. The Norse fire came in and took over. There was the nuclear war. There was the whole reclamation, and it started with the Norse fire coming in. So here she's put in displacement of change, and it shows how she was literally ripped out of her home and everything, and forced to go and work in this place as a young kid and live off of like no money and all that. So here we have a brief glimpse of V's history, which could possibly lead to explanation of why he is the way he is, especially in here when he says back in the good old days. He also mentions Lark Hill 1993 and says, "I was there, Commander Prothero." So this is definite glimpse at his past and possible explanation of why he's doing the things he's doing. More focus on the second character, V. The Roman numeral on the door, definite clue as to why he might call himself V. Also, here we have another main reason why V becomes the radical anarchist that he does. Father Anthony Lilliman, who's a bishop and also um, recreationally dirty, if you know what I mean. He plays a big role in V's past. Right here, perfect characterization, of V himself. He quotes a song by the Rolling Stones, "Sympathy for the Devil." Um, Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. So if you know that song, "Sympathy for the Devil," making a connection here, V puts himself out as an like, not like a crazy person, but he puts himself out there as not someone to be messed with. Okay, right here we see Evie freaking out on V because she learns that he killed those few people. This will come on into play later on. But essentially, she's rejecting, especially here, she's rejecting everything that he's saying and standing for. Here to expand on V's character also, he's been killing literally everyone who's been involved in his past. As you can see down here, Finch says they're all dead, all deceased. Okay, within these 4 pages right here, we find out about V's past, how he was a test subject under the watchful eye of Dr. Delia Surge at Lark Hill Retainment Center, and basically run by Prothero, who V had banished into a mental insanity by driving him crazy. And he was a test subject here, so eventually everything that they did to him, it didn't mess him up completely, but it turned him into, a crazy guy. Not crazy, but he wanted out, so he blew the place up, and in that action of doing that, he pretty much destroyed himself physically. So this gives the clue right here that V isn't just going out and killing random people like a psychopath. He's doing it for good reason. Right here, the start. V breaks into Jordan Tower and he puts out a speech that everybody needs to get up and they need to start thinking for themselves. They need to quit letting the government rule everything they're doing, because that's what they're doing. They're letting the government have control. So he starts Evie's journey right here. She will later on take over for him, but he's starting her out. He's motivating the people, to get a clue. And while this doesn't do it exactly, it puts a lot of questions in their mind and it confuses them, which causes chaos. The speech is also a PowerPoint for V's character. It illustrates his true purpose, that he will not stand for oppression of the very government who tortured him, and he wants the public to understand this. He also wants them to stand with him and fight this issue. So we see that he's not exactly a bad guy. He is an anti-hero with Byronic hero characteristics, but he's doing it for good reasons. Right here, after a fight breaks out in the bar, Evie has a turning point in her mental thinking. She says to Gordon, "We shouldn't have to live like this, should we?" And Gordon is one of the people she stayed with after V abandoned her, so now she's going to have a turning point. Here, Evie is kidnapped, so we're about to start the critical part of her journey. So Evie goes through this trippy place, but then she realizes none of this is real. She ends up in the same type of cell that V was in, and like she said, if I don't eat it, the rat will come back. But she can't eat. She's so miserable and detested with herself and where she is. Evie is tortured and punished and questioned endlessly about V and her whereabouts with him. Right here, she reads the story of Valerie, and Valerie is the essential empowerment for Evie's character. She gives her a reason to look forward. She finally realizes the only thing she needs now is her integrity, and Instead of giving up all the information and telling them, yeah, I have it, yeah, just let me go, she says no. She basically puts up a fight to the very end with nothing left, no fear, no ache, none of that, and the guard finally lets her out. Right here, she has the moment. She breaks down crying, and V tells her, just embrace it, feel it, understand it, that this is the last thing you have left in your life that will keep you strong and build you no matter what. So she has that moment, and he says, no more, no, Evie, no more blindfolds. All the blindfolds are gone. So she's gone through all this punishment and torture to open her eyes as a character. So Finch, after all his soul searching and everything in that field, he finally discovers what happened at Lark Hill, and he finds V at Victoria Station, his lair, and shoots V, but V says he can't be killed because ideas all are bulletproof. So he went through the entire revolution and he created a movement to which Evie will come along now and take over. So after V dies in her arms and she finally has a rationalization moment, she figures out that everything he left behind, like his stuff, his in the shadow gallery, the train, everything was for her to continue on the revolution. So she essentially becomes him and she goes out and she continues the revolution. Thank you for watching my presentation. Sorry it was so long. I just get a little carried away. But thank you.